Perhaps you would be so kind as to circulate these. The same thing. My name is John Whidden. I live at 7 Fowler Street. We all seem to be true believers here, but like all true believers, we tend to cite selected passages of the Bible. We've certainly heard from the developer and Mr. Hovell from the book of Revelations. I would like to look a bit more at the Old Testament. While I'm in total agreement with the town's policy on increasing residential density in downtown, I agree with it. I think it's the correct one. And while I agree that there are a number, very large number, of very fine things about the development that the developer has proposed, I would hope here to make him happy by reducing his costs and increasing the satisfaction of the townspeople of Wolfville. Now, the MPS, I would say, first of all, the downtown architectural guidelines and MPS seem to have been very selectively applied. Section 3.2, the streetscapes with its buildings constructed up to the sidewalk should provide the dominant visual guide for alignment of new buildings. The existing rhythm of buildings within the commercial area, if the downtown is that of 7 to 8 meter wide facades or multiples thereof, each with its own storefront and windows and entry doors, and this rhythm should be maintained. This has been ignored. Section 3.4 states, the appearance of new structures should exhibit a visual empathy with those remaining from earlier periods, especially where there are consistent visual elements from one building to another along the street. Here too, this is not the case. Section 4.3.3 states, common height lines of adjacent structures should be respected so that new construction blends in with the existing streetscape. Here, the length of a 75-foot long roof parallels the street at the same approximate height as the gable and peak of the building next door. So, that much of the, whatever you call it, building is at that height, and the entire length of 75 feet is at that length in this proposed development. The front facade is by no means compatible with neighboring buildings and design features. And here again, selective reading. Ekistics, which has been quoted, design, made several proposals for bringing the front facade into compatibility, such as adding shed dormers and varying the size and style of windows on the front facade. These suggestions have been utterly ignored. Also ignored are Ekistics' suggestion to alleviate the massive wall of the rear facade facing Harbourfront Park, gazebo, and walking trail. One might ask why the town has gone to the expense of hiring a consultant and then ignoring the suggestions the consultant has made. Now, B, the proposal is in conflict with the MPS. Section 12.1.4, 12.1.5 require council to ensure that when considering the development agreements, the architectural character of the proposed building is visually compatible with the established architectural character of other buildings in the neighborhood in terms of height, bulk, scale, roof shapes, materials, relationships of windows and doors, and architectural details. In fact, one or two maybe, but most of them are not compatible at all. In terms of bulk and scale, the non-compliance with the MPS is outrageous. The main, you look at these. Now, I will admit here on these that while the size of Rita's is slightly larger than it actually is in comparison with the other buildings, and the size of the Wolfville Fruit Company on the extreme left is a bit smaller than is in fact the case. Nonetheless, this gives a very, very good suggestion, more than a suggestion, depiction of the relative things, elements of mass and bulk. This building is 75 feet across the front facade, 145 feet in depth, And as near as I can figure, and I agree with Peter, there's an utter lack of usable figures here, 45 feet high. And it is said to be compatible with the buildings in the surrounding area. Okay? Now, I went out with my tape measure today. This is compared with the buildings to the east, the buildings to the west, the buildings across the street. This proposal is compatible. I find that, indeed, the building is compatible in size, in height, in so on, with two buildings. One is U-Haul, and the other one is Railtown. This front facade is 73 feet. I measured U-Haul. The end of U-Haul is 82 feet. Sorry, 75 feet. It's 75 feet. So there's a 7-foot difference. You take U-Haul and turn it on its end, strip off the front and back porch. You've got something that is 7 feet wider than this. Longer, of course, but you can cut that off. Railtown is 83 feet across the end, and if you cut off 2/3 of it and put it in there, that's exactly what you're getting in this proposal. So, this is utterly spurious. You know, this kind of, to say, I'm not getting myself up to glycerin, to say that it's in compliance with the terms of bulk and scale and the municipal planning document is nonsense. Further, 18.6.1 of the MPS says, it shall be the policy of council to ensure that the development does not cause conflict with adjacent land uses, disturb the quiet enjoyment of adjacent lands, or alter the character and stability of surrounding neighborhoods through ... to the height, mass, or architectural design of the proposed buildings. The DA, developing an agreement, and supporting material which is before council provides no detailed renderings or graphics from which one might judge the accuracy of the planning staff's claim that the height and mass of the building are similar to the adjacent building at 344-348 Main Street. All right? That is patently not the case for this facade. It comes to a point. It's not flat. Or bulk, as I've described above, especially when one views it from across the street. The claim is far less true for the proposed mass of the building as a whole, which is about twice the depth of its neighbor. It goes right back to the property line. No other building along there does that. In the DA before council, the proposed structure is compared to this one building to the west for dubious compatibility. Completely ignored is every other building to the east and west and across the street, all of which are part of the neighborhood referred to in the MPS 12.1.4 cited above. Not one other structure in the neighborhood or anywhere on downtown Main Street is remotely compatible in mass or design. So, I'm saying selective reading of the Bible. I've gone to the Bible and produced something different. The other thing I wish to focus on is what Peter said. The council is being asked to accept a pig in a poke. I used the analogy before. It is like Frank magazine. Here's a photograph of Robert Redford. Underneath it says, Premier Darrell Dexter. Not exactly as depicted. We don't know what this is going to look like. I've been told that Railtown, as it appeared from the developer, is nothing like the Railtown that was given to the public in these meetings or prospective purchasers of apartments. The concept drawings give no idea of specific dimensions. Council is being asked to agree to a proposal based on drawings for a building which certainly will turn out to be not exactly as depicted in the words of Frank magazine. What's being put forth to council is a vague idea of what it will actually be like. This may have occurred in the past, and I'm told it has. That this has happened is no reason for it to happen here in the biggest building off the Acadia campus ever to be erected in the heart of downtown Wolfville on Main Street. The documents with which we've been provided, the drawings, leave absolutely unspecified any number of important factors. I will not talk about the driveway, because other people will. From Plan 1004, it appears that the interior hallways are 4 feet wide. That's barely enough room for 2 people to pass. In addition, it appears as though there's a firewall 2/3 of the way down the building, but that's not stated. I don't know. What's that big line through there? Would there be room in 4-foot wide corridors for required fire doors? If not, council should know about these things. Are there going to be sprinkler systems? The east facade of the building appears to be 8 feet from the lot line or closer if the 75-foot building is to be shifted eastward to allow for a wider drive. The National Building Code has regulations for unprotected openings, windows, which depend on the setback from the lot line. It would appear, according to an architect I consulted, that the area of window space in elevation 1007 may greatly exceed the allowable area in the NBC. The drawings suggest window openings taking up 20 to 25% of the facade, where the NBC directives would suggest more like 10% is allowable. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right, there speaks an architect.
Yeah.
The provider of these drawings is not an architect. So, if that is the case, as Peter says he thinks it is, then what kind of changes are going to be made? The facade may end up looking like, I don't know, the end of the DeWolf building, you know, not even a single window. But once